They say some places can change a person forever, not because of what they see, but because of what sees them. This isn't a campfire tale. It isn't an internet myth or an urban legend. This is something that really happened in a real village to my wife's uncle way back in the early 1980s. His name was Uncle Mao Lun. And decades later, he's never been the same. But no one really understands what happened to him. The village where Uncle Mao Lun lived was small, tucked in northern China, surrounded by fields and old stone walls. Everybody knew each other, living a traditional Chinese life. There were farms and local markets selling food and vegetables. It was a place with no trouble, no drama. Everyone knew the paths that wound between the houses, the farms and the streams. And everyone knew the graveyard. It was testament to the generations of people from the village who had died, ancestors going back hundreds of years. It wasn't like the neat cemeteries you see in the West. It was sprawling, uneven. Old headstones leant against each other, cracked with age. Moss climbed up the stone. Names had faded away. Even in the daytime, the place felt heavy. At night, villagers would whisper a prayer if they had to pass by it. They would not walk through it if they did not have to. But one evening, Uncle Mao Lun had no choice. It had rained hard that day. Uncle Mao Lun took his usual walk home from the farm where he worked. As he reached the old river, he found that its banks had burst, flooding his path home. It was already getting late, with the sun barely poking over the horizon, its shimmering glow fading with each passing second. Uncle Mao Lun was hungry and wanted to get home before nightfall. He tried to find another way around the flooded path, but he soon realized that it was no use. There was only one other route home, the shortcut that went straight through the graveyard. By the time he had decided to take the route, the sun had disappeared. Uncle Mao Lun felt a sense of dread and urgency. There was no more time to waste. He had to go through the graveyard. As he entered, at first he thought nothing of it. He knew the place, he knew where the gates were, and although it was almost dark, he was relying on his familiarity with the place to help get him through. He figured if he walked straight, he'd be through in 10 minutes. From there, it would be easy to get back onto the main path. But with every step Uncle Mao Lun took, the air felt thicker. The darkness grew blacker, closing around him, suffocating him. The crickets stopped chirping. Even the sound of his shoes against the dirt seemed muffled, like the ground itself was swallowing the noise. And then he noticed something strange. Every row of graves looked the same. The same shape, same tilt, the same shadows falling across the stones. He walked faster, certain he'd soon see the gate. But there was nothing, only more graves, row after row. It felt like he was walking on the spot. Each time he thought he was nearly there, he'd notice a tree or a grave that he had already walked past before. No matter how fast he walked, the gate never arrived. Later, he would say that time didn't feel right in there. His watch stopped ticking. The moon seemed to freeze in place. Sometimes he thought he saw the outline of the gate ahead, but when he blinked, it was gone. And always, always, there were the footsteps. Not behind him, not ahead, but to the side, as if something walked with him, keeping pace, just beyond his sight. At the corners of his vision, he would catch shadows lurking somewhere amongst the gravestones. He felt eyes on him, hundreds of them. He became desperate to escape the nightmare that he found himself in, desperate to reach the gate and escape the graveyard. He tried shouting, but his own voice came back to him strange, echoes that didn't sound like echoes, almost like someone else was repeating his words a few seconds after him, in a voice that did not quite sound like his. As he walked, there were more footsteps alongside him, behind him as well now, everywhere. At one point, he stopped, and they stopped too. But there was a delay, just slightly, just enough to let him know they were not his own, but belonged to someone or something else. Eventually, the sun came up, and that's when the villagers found him. He was staggering out of the graveyard gates, clothes clinging to him with sweat. His eyes were wild, lips cracked, skin pale. Only one night had passed, but Uncle Mao Lun looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. He appeared gaunt, hollow, frightened. From that day on, Uncle Mao Lun wasn't the same. He didn't laugh anymore. He didn't sing while he worked. People said he spoke differently, that his voice had a new rhythm, like it belonged to someone else. Sometimes he would stop mid-sentence, staring at something that nobody else could see. At night, he woke the family with his pacing, back and forth across the house, sometimes muttering, sometimes silent. When asked what he was doing, he would only say, "Trying to find the way out." Over the years, Uncle Mao Lun's life crumbled. He lost his job and could never get another one. His speech changed further. He talked less every day and no longer carried the vitality he once did. His friends stopped visiting. Even within his family, there was a sense of distance, as if a part of him had been left behind in that graveyard. Some people in the village said it was no longer really him, that something in the graveyard had got him or replaced him or swapped with him somehow. And the strangest part, he never described any more about what he saw, not once, only that something in the graveyard wouldn't let him leave. That was decades ago. Uncle Maolun is still alive today, still living in that same village, still carrying whatever followed him out of those gates. He rarely speaks now. He still lives with his family, but he is not the same man, quite literally, according to some people. So I will end this story with a question to you. What do you think happened? Did Uncle Maolun stumble into a spirit trap, a maze built by the dead? Did the souls buried there claim a piece of him and send the rest back? Or is he still walking that graveyard even now, in some way, unable to ever really leave? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your theories in the comments. And if you've got a story of your own, true or imagined, send it in. Your nightmare could be the next one we tell here on Fright Mill. So, until next time, sleep tight